Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Joey Galvez, one half of your host of Explain Yourself, and I want to let you guys know about a really cool book from our friend of the show, Eli Shockey. This one is called The Greylock, and it's a story where magic is a commodity. Potions are sold at corner stores. Orcs and dwarves earn a living in cubicles, not on the battlefields. But there are those who resist the house's magic's laws. Branded a criminal and forced to live as a wand for hire, there is a spell slinger they call the Greylock. Check this one out. You guys can pre-order issue 3 right now with code JAN241939, and make sure you guys are heading over to your favorite LCS and letting them know that you want Greylock number 3, and maybe pick up the first 2 issues. You could do that at the Scout web store. So make sure you guys are grabbing the Greylock number 3, JAN241939 at previewsworld.com.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame the Show and Cardo.
That's a good name. It's a name.
I like it not as good as the last name I chose, which was I forgot
Yeah.
what it was, but it was something.
It was something, and it was good.
What was the last thing we reviewed?
The Troll 2.
Troll 2, and I called myself Nilbog, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah.
So, today, on the show, we are covering the show. That's
It's
confusing.
called the show. Like,
Yes.
don't get confused.
Yes, don't get confused by this. This is the pilot episode of a very short-lived sitcom called The Show, which aired its first episode March 17th, 1996, on the Fox television network. And it had its last episode in, June of 1996. So, yeah, there were 8 episodes total.
Oh my God! Really? Only 8?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that it was March 17th. Isn't that St. Patrick's Day?
Yes.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay, and then
And the main character has an Irish last name, so his name
oh,
is
that's right.
Tom Delaney. That's interesting. So okay, yeah,
'Cause I think they did mention something about him being Irish. No, I don't think.
No.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it only lasted 8. I thought it was. I mean, it was definitely a product of a time, but
Yeah. Well, who knows how the rest of the episodes were? I mean, this episode could have been like the gold standard of the show, and the rest could have been like shit or something, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
that's possible.
I tried looking for other episodes, but this is the only one online that I could find. So
It was the viewing room. He pretty much, or she only pretty much was on the pilot.
Yeah.
So.
But even then, I thought maybe somebody else would have put up something or everything. But I guess this was even lost for years until recently.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was reading online, like, there was a time where Sam Cedar was looking for it and he couldn't find it. So
Why, was he in it or something? Or
Sam Cedar?
yeah.
He's the main character.
Oh, that's Sam Cedar?
Yeah, it's Sam Cedar. He plays Tom Delaney.
Oh my God, I did not recognize him at all.
Yeah, it was Sam Cedar. That's why I wanted to cover this. So
Okay. I watch Sam Cedar like all the time on the majority report.
Yeah, but he's a lot younger here, so yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but Tom Delaney is played by Sam Cedar. And then in the cast, you also had in this pilot, who I don't believe appears in any other episode, is Paul Giamatti
Yeah,
as his
interesting.
friend Jeffrey. You've got Maestro Clark um, and Chris Spencer and Takia Crystal Keeman. Um, a bunch of really funny people. Um, Supposedly, he's listed as being in this episode, but former guest of the show, Mark Christopher Lawrence, is supposedly in the episode somewhere, but as a character named Chris, but I don't remember seeing him unless he looks a lot different.
Huh.
No, he was on Chuck for years. For the whole series, that is. Played Big Mike on there. But I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this episode now just to see if I can find Mark in it.
Right.
Yeah, he might have been one of the entourage type people or something in it. That's
Yeah, because they didn't show too many of them close up, so like
Mm-hmm.
he might have been like one of like the background people or something.
Yeah, and he's supposedly in 4 episodes of the series. So,
Okay.
and then it looks like I'm looking at the cast and like for the other episodes, and then they added a different white guy later. So my assumption is that Paul Giamatti was in the pilot, couldn't do the series or something, and then they replaced his character with a new white guy friend or something. That's my guess. So, anyways, original initial thoughts here on this episode before we get too deep into it.
It was actually I think surprisingly good. Because I wasn't like with these pilot stuff when show only gets like half a season or whatever, you start to wonder if it's any good or not. But I thought it was decent. Again, it's definitely a product of its time and some aspects of it. But I laughed. I thought it was pretty funny. I wasn't like bored to tears or anything like that. Like with some of the shows we watched, like Doctor Paradise.
Yeah.
Minus the one character who played a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
One of your friends. Anyway, but like, I mean, it's like an average comedy. Like I wouldn't call it great, but I mean, come on, we had 2 broke girls for like 6 seasons.
Yeah, I mean this was better than that. Better than a lot of shows that lasted seasons. Big Bang Theory. I mean, did I say that? Anyway, so the
12 seasons there.
Yeah.
The the shows that are old enough to sign up for the military. Stuff
Yeah.
Like that.
Shows that should have been canceled after the 2nd or 3rd season. Anyway, so at the most. But yeah, boy, there's nothing better than outstaying your welcome here, folks. Anyways, I liked the show. I thought it was pretty good. Surprisingly good, actually. I mean,
yeah,
it was definitely, like you said, a product of its time. Some of the jokes wouldn't necessarily fly today, but
yeah,
that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is, baby.
It's just the way it is, yeah.
Anyway, so but so what happens here in this episode, Sesame?
Well, the what's his name? Delaney. What's his name?
Tom Delaney is the main character played by Sam Cedar. Yeah.
Isn't that the same name as the guy from Blink-182?
I don't know.
Maybe not. Anyway, that would be interesting if that was the character. But anyway, he gets a job. He initially writes for Jay Leno, and he ends up getting an offer from a guy who's gonna like I guess pay him more or whatever, and his wife is like, or his girlfriend is like.
Oh, you're thinking of Tom DeLonge. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. There you go. That would have been a good show though if it was the actor or the actual person from Blink-182 playing himself. as a writer for a TV show. But anyway,
Yeah.
giving myself ideas here, but and it's all about aliens because he's like really into. But anyway, so is Dan Aykroyd. They could probably do a show together. Anyway, so uh, his girlfriend or wife, I'm not sure which, but
Character's name is Allison Delaney, so I'm assuming they're married.
oh, okay.
Unless they're both dating each other and have the same last name, which would be weird.
Well, then they might be related, and that's
Yeah.
but she's like, you can't do that, and he's like, why not? Because that's a black show, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's gonna be one of these things where it's like they're gonna like make race like the the front and center of it, but like do it in a really bad way, because it's 1996, But and it's like, do you even know like an actual single black person in your own life, like like a friend? And he's like, like I know of some, and whatever. So that's like kind of what sets us up for the show, and then he ends up showing up to the office, and then like the guy who's like at like the front desk, he's like, did you see the bodyguard or whatever? After he asked him like where the office is, he's like, yeah. He's like, what did you think about it? He's like, well, I'm not really a big Kevin Costner fan. He's like, I'm not talking about Kevin Costner, I'm talking about Whitney. And like Todd looks over and sees like basically like a shrine made to Whitney.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, she's like the best or whatever. And then she's like, okay, yeah, you can go to the office. Like, you got to pass this test, I guess. Like, whether or not you like Whitney Houston. So I thought that was kind of funny. It was like a nice little bit, Good shows tend to have these little things. And
yeah.
If you do them right, they're good. If you do them wrong,
then they're bazinga. Anyway, so did I say that out loud?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, and then they're bazinga, and
yeah, exactly.
Oh boy, or did I do that? Anyway, so which was better than bazinga. Anyway, so
it was.
Yeah. Yes. I don't dislike the big. Yeah, I do. Anyway, so so basically, yeah, we got this whole situation where he says, how lovely Whitney was in the movie and stuff too, which was funny. Then what goes on here? We go in and he meets with the star of this late night show, played by Maestro Clark, named Wilson Lee is the name of the character. That's the only thing I complain about here, is that I think the actor has a better name than his character.
Yeah, totally. He looks familiar. I don't know if I've seen him. I must have seen him something, because
let me see what he's been in. He was in.
I'm sure I've seen him in a few.
He's in a lot of things. He was in. He does a lot of like voice work and stuff like that. But he's did stuff like Kenan and Kel. He does a lot of voice work. He did the voice of Will Smith's character in Men in Black, the video game. It looks like he does a lot of voiceover work too. And he was in like The Shield and Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. He hasn't really done anything since 2009. So yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah. Mistro, M-Y, I think that'd be Maestro. M-Y-S-T-R-O, that'd be Maestro, wouldn't it?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, that's his name, Maestro Clark. But yeah, he was pretty funny, though, I thought, in this episode. Yeah, so what, he goes in and he meets with them and basically is hired, and there's this whole, like, scene of, black people and white guy.
Pretty much, that was it. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, get it?
Yeah.
He's the one in a room full of black people.
Mm-hmm. The fish out of water sort of thing. Yeah.
So, he's uncomfortable because he's the only white guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay. And then, and it's like, again, like 1996 type of, type of way of dealing humorously with that kind of issue. whatever. And then like one of his entourage guys kind of sort of insults him, and then he like takes him out of the room. Like, I need to have a chat with one of my entourage. And you can like hear them like arguing with each other like right outside the door. And then I think he like makes the guy like apologize basically. And he doesn't even really give him like a full on apology, but like whatever.
Yeah.
And then that type of thing. And then he's got then like the next he's like, you could even hire another white guy to like hang around with you or whatever, if you
Yeah.
feel better or whatever. So that's where Paul Giamatti's character
Comes in later. Yeah. We start out where
yeah.
we see the writer's room, which is made to look like Wilson Lee's apartment that he grew up in to keep him humble.
It looked like a nice apartment. It had a computer. Had I could see myself doing some good writing in there.
Yeah, but I mean, they probably just put the computer in there for the writing purposes. I doubt he grew up in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe.
Especially when this is set in 1996 and not many people had computers, like.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't make much sense. Like
Yeah.
91 or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're rich, because those computers were selling for like $5,000 back then.
Yeah.
For inflation, that would be like $10,000 computer or something like that.
It'd be the cost of buying Twitter, and
yeah, and then laying off half of the
yeah.
Anyway, Elon Musk is a terrible person. Anyway,
yeah. So, he's in the room, and then we get the rest of the staff comes in, and of course they're all African American people. You've got all guys, one girl. Takia Crystal Kima's character plays the one female writer. And you've got one of the writers, like the kind of like stubborn one, is named Trent Vance, played by Chris Spencer. Chris Spencer is actually a well-known stand-up comic who I listened to a really good interview on WTF with Mark Maron with him. Yeah. Speaking of people that know Sam Cedar and used to host a show with him.
Yeah.
So but listen. Yeah, if you get a chance to look that up, it's a really good interview with Chris Spencer. Seems like a really cool guy. Yeah, he's like the stubborn, like, I don't want to deal with this stuff, and he has like this whole thing where he's trying to figure stuff out. Like at one point where talks about the whole thing about like shouldn't you be writing on some show like Friends or something, and telling him why don't they have any black friends on that show. And he says, you can tell me they can find a monkey in New York City but can't find a black friend to hang out with.
Right.
Which
is interesting to make it in 1996, because that was more of like a later on critique, at least from
I mean they critiqued it before. Like it's been a critique now, like since Friends got popular again when it was on Netflix and now on HBO Max, and streaming. A lot of people were pointing that out, like why there's no like why all the friends are white, basically. There's no the only you have a side character here and there who's like a person of color, but that's it.
Well, not only that, I mean, like there wasn't even very many black people, like even in the background, like just walking around. You know what I mean? So it was like,
and you're living in 1990s New York City, which is like one of the most diverse cities in the country at the time.
Right.
And, so.
Then they finally shoehorned some like black woman near the end where Joey and Ross.
Oh yeah, you had what's her face, the girl from Criminal Minds, and whose line is it anyway?
Wasn't really.
Yeah, she was on it. Former Talk Soup host too. Wow, that's kind of bothered me now that I can't think of her name. But It's okay. I'll look
I
it
know.
up. Yeah.
Um, I think I know. Wait, was it Aisha something?
Aisha Tyler. Yeah, there we go. Yep. Thank you.
No problem.
It was just one of those brain farts. Like, I'm a big fan of hers, and I totally just blanked on her name. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. Yeah, yeah, she was like one of the only black characters you ever saw on that show. So, but yeah, so he did have a good point there in 1996, because that's like, while the show's at its apex, they're, you know, bringing that up because the show was only on like a couple seasons at that point. So
Yeah, it was
yeah.
like their second or third season. Yeah, and
Mhm. Yeah. So what else happens here? We have a scene where Paul Giamatti's character of Jeffrey comes in, and he basically totally fails the Whitney Houston test. Um,
yeah, he
with
does.
with the receptionist. Yeah, because he basically talks about how she's way over the top and all this other stuff. So but he gets in there into the writer's room, and they're realizing that there's two white guys in there, and they bring up the friend stuff and everything, like I said. What Yeah, and speaking of his character, I did find a little bit about why he was only in the pilot. Larry Wilmore, the um writer of on the Daily Show, and had his own show on Comedy Central for a short time and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no.
and he wrote for a lot of sitcoms over the years and everything. He worked on this show, and he said in an interview, I worked on a show for the Fox network called The Show, which was about a white guy who joins the writing staff of a black sitcom. It was a solid idea and fun to work on while it lasted. We had a fantastic actor for the pilot. He was extremely funny and just brilliant, but Fox didn't want him for the series because they thought he wasn't good looking enough. That man's name, Paul Giamatti. Yes, is one of the best character actors of our time, and Fox deemed him not quite attractive enough. Paul could not have been a nicer guy, and he couldn't have been more hilarious. When the staff heard the news, we were like, this is insane. Why do they not like this guy? It was such typical network bullshit. Yeah, so.
Because, like, when I think of, like, writers of a TV show, I think, oh, these are the people who should be super attractive and front and center.
And
oh, wait, no.
The guy they replaced him with, I'm assuming, because I haven't seen the other episodes, but the only other white main character that is listed for other episodes is an actor named Tom McGowan, and he's not unattractive, but he's not more or less attractive than Paul Giamatti, in my opinion. So it's like,
it's just typical bullshit. But like, yeah, because like he was, he was like basically like preparing for like an all-out race war, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like his character was just so paranoid. He's like they hate us, like I don't hate them. They're the ones that are like gonna take over or whatever. Like basically like all of the fears that we're seeing.
And it's interesting too, though. Like this was before Paul Giamatti went on to do Donnie Brasco, Private Parts, Saving Private Ryan, The Truman Show, Dr. Dolittle, all those, Credible Rock, a lot of like really good movies like within a year or two after that, So
I know.
it's like,
I know, seriously,
yeah.
it was like a huge, like he was at so many movies during that like 4 years. Then he was in that that really I forgot the name of it, but it was like a I didn't like it that much, but it was like a really popular movie that was kind of like indie kind of film, but it wasn't indie at the same time. It was like
Maybe Sideways, maybe.
Yeah, Sideways.
Yeah, with
really
Thomas
popular.
Hayden Church. Yeah.
I didn't that much, but it was like a really popular film.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, he was in all kinds of stuff. But yeah, he was like all super paranoid about like doing a black show and that they're gonna seek revenge or whatever, and then like uh shit, like apparently uh what was the guy's name? Lee? Uh what's the main guy's show who's like the actual
Oh,
star?
Wilson Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, Wilson Lee apparently didn't like the script even though he didn't read it
Yeah.
because one of his entourage
Yeah.
named
Chocolate Walt.
Chocolate Walt read it
Mm-hmm.
and didn't like it, so therefore he didn't like it, which is
Yeah.
weird because okay. So then he told him that he has to go from Wacky Town to Funny Town,
Yeah.
and then just this whole bit about going to Wacky Town or Whack Town into Funny Town.
And
And
they
then
decided,
meanwhile,
yeah, they had decided that instead of doing this Mike Tyson sketch, they were going to do a sketch called Dennis Menace to Society, which I want to see. But anyways, Dennis the Menace to
it's right.
Society. Yeah.
So that was a good pun. And then I like what he said too. Was waiting for what's next? Waiting for Malcolm Malcolm to exhale or something
Yeah.
like. I thought that was a good line.
Yeah. There were some pretty good ones in this episode.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, and so while he's off talking to the guy, they drop off these props for the new sketch, these prop guns in the writers' room, and we have this whole like little thing where they're all pretending to do scenes from Quentin Tarantino movies, and it seems like that Jeffrey and the black writers are all getting along now, so it's like funny, but then Tom walks into this and he sees everybody pointing guns at each other, and he picks up one of the guns at one point, and then Wilson walks in and he basically threatens Wilson with a gun about like you're not gonna mess with me sort of thing, and yeah, what else happens here? Yeah,
Revealing his latent prejudices of like, oh, like
yeah,
you like type of thing. Like he said something too, like, oh, I thought it was some liberal from Massachusetts or something. I don't know, something like
yeah,
that. And like assumed that like, and it's like, dude, really? You assume that they're gonna get into a gunfight?
mm-hmm.
In
In a writer's room at a Hollywood TV
in
show.
a Hollywood studio just because they black show like,
Yeah.
and I guess the type of show was maybe supposed to be like some kind of like in living color, just because like
Yeah, I mean they had sketches and stuff, but I mean could be too that like it could be like a Tonight Show or an Arsenio Hall show or something, but also had sketches because like Tonight Show would have sketches from time to time.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, because like all the late night shows would from time to time have little sketches here and there. So yeah. So you might be writing, monologue jokes and then writing a sketch. Yeah. But it's hard to tell though what, we probably would have found out more later, like if it was more like In Living Color or Saturday Night Live, or if it was more like The Tonight Show or Arsenio Hall, Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what else happens here?
See, I think they resolve the issue and
Yeah, Wilson. They find out. They tell Tom that it's a prop gun. He realizes it's made of rubber, and that there's they have a little one-on-one talk about things, and basically, he admits that he doesn't want to do the Tyson sketch because he's afraid that Mike Tyson's going to beat him up, basically. So, yeah.
Right. Yes. Right. That's what Wilson he said.
Yeah.
Why that was like shortly after the whole the ear biting thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think it was.
So yeah, that was the real reason. And then he offers, Tom to triple his pay from what he's making from Jay Leno. So he's like, all right, yeah, you're on,
Yeah.
type of thing. And then we do get kind of like an end scene where like Mike Tyson punches Wilson or whatever, like
yeah. So
And that was that,
so we assume he did Tom's sketch then, yeah. So
yeah, we're assuming that they went with it, yeah. And well, there was one line, and it's interesting too, because sometimes, like, when you watch older shows or movies or whatever, like, we have the tendency, or at least I have the tendency to think that, like, like some of these issues really weren't like brought up back then, but like
yeah,
some actually were, because like, because Wilson, when he was talking to Tom, alone, like near the end of the episode, he was saying stuff like look, like you've been dealing with race for like 5 minutes, and look how
mhm.
you reacted. Like, imagine living like this your whole life, and like that's what people are talking about now. Like it's some new thing. Like, well, this is 1996,
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? So
and yeah, like you were saying too, with Paul Giamatti's character there too, acting originally like he was kind of like almost like the what do you call those people that think like whites are going to be replaced, sort of thing too, so he is.
yeah, because his thing
Yeah.
was like, I don't hate them, they hate me, so I
Mm-hmm.
need to protect myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a weird, like, kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
so
it's like,
it was interesting, and it's really interesting that this kind of had like a political slant to it in a way, and then Sam Cedar went on to become like a very interesting political commentator. So yeah,
I mean, the Majority Report is one of like my sort of staples, political stuff. Like, I watch Young Turks and stuff, but like, I don't know, sometimes Majority Report seems a little bit more like nuanced, or at least they're seem less performative, I guess, is sometimes seems like they're just sort of talking, about
yeah,
what's going on.
and it's funny like the because Larry Wilmore worked on this show too, and the original name of the nightly show with Larry Wilmore was going to be the Minority Report.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which is interesting too. So yeah,
Wasn't he hosted a show after Colbert, but I forgot what that was called. Or was it after the Daily Show? I don't
it was
remember.
called the Nightly Show. Yeah.
That's right, Nightly Show. I like that. That
Yeah,
was
because that was
cool.
originally supposed to be called the Minority Report, but
Oh,
they yeah, it was yeah, there was originally that at the same time when that was coming out, there was a um Minority Report, like the the Tom Cruise movie. There was a TV series based on that movie
oh,
coming out at the same time, and they didn't want to have any confusion, even though they're two totally different types of shows and on totally different networks. But they still just didn't want to have those out at the same time out of fear of like lawsuits or anything.
right. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because it was originally the show. Yeah, it says the show was originally going to be called the Minority Report or the Minority Rapport, like because it's going to follow the Colbert Report. With
Okay.
Larry Wilmore, because it would be like the Minority Rapport with Larry Wilmore, so it would rhyme, and which was suggested by Jon Stewart. It was later changed as a result of receiving backlash from um, Fox, as they intended to use the same title for an upcoming series based on the 2002 film. Yeah, so
Right.
yeah, but then that's funny because then
Huh.
um, Sam Cedar's show has a similar name.
The Majority Report.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I
What
just think that's
how
kind
he
of funny how it's all kind of circular.
sure what even
Yeah.
what that phrase means, or how they came up with that, or
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, but it's just funny how titles are, connected somehow. Anyways, any final thoughts here on on this episode?
Not really. Just other than that, I had no idea that was Sam Cedar, and that was a decent attempt. Uh, Probably would have been better if they gave him more than eight
Mhm.
episodes to kind of get to
Yeah,
to
a
fly, or
lot of shows, especially Fox at that time, was, you know, notorious for never giving any kind of show to find its footing, because I mean, this was like maybe couple years or so before Firefly and stuff like that. You know, there'd be shows that got really good critical ratings, and then Fox just didn't care or give them time to find an audience. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me, with the whole Warner Brothers, Discovery Plus, and what's it now, Next Star or whatever.
Yeah, well, Nexstar owns CW now, and they're just doing something because they're trying to make money, because CW never made money. I understand what they're doing from a financial standpoint. From a creative standpoint, not at all. But
yeah.
But a lot of it I lay a lot of it on Nexstar, but I also lay a lot of it on WB Discovery. You know, so it's like there's where they could actually maybe shop some of these shows that they produce to other places. But then again, they're doing their whole like house cleaning thing now too. Like they just canceled Westworld recently, and they canceled the before it even started filming the reboot of Degrassi that they were going to produce. They're basically cleaning house on their whole scripted television. So and Westworld got good ratings. I mean, I never really watched it, but I'm just saying that that's just kind of sad that they're even doing it to a show that was received well. I can understand maybe cutting ties with a show that like Degrassi, even though I would have liked to seen it, but like a show that was started under the old regime and they just want to get rid of it before it even starts filming, because it's easier to cancel something before it starts, which I understand financially. But a show that seems to be getting decent ratings like Westworld made no sense to me. But also like Nexstar, they're trying to make money on their end with CW by any way they can. So trying to change the demographic a little to get, more households makes sense logically, I guess. Also, what they're going to do, a lot of it is probably do some more like reality television to cut the budget. And I heard a lot of like, which the CW did during the pandemic, and it actually worked for them, getting some decent ratings, was importing shows from other countries, from like Australia and Great Britain and Canada and places that speak English. So if they import shows that are already produced, they don't have to produce anything.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're saving money on production, and they're just airing. And so I think it's asinine, and I'm sad about it because there was a lot of shows on there I liked. But I mean, nothing's safe on there. Not even like the Walker shows, which are doing pretty well on there, and other, like they have like the Winchesters, which is a supernatural prequel show that is doing decent and stuff like that. I don't think any of those are safe. I don't see any of those lasting more than a year or two. And I mean, definitely like Superman and Lois probably doesn't have much longer either because of everything too. In my opinion, I don't see it happening. I see them almost like cleaning house completely.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, with Stargirl and hopefully someone else can pick that up, because that show there's so much more than 3 seasons.
I mean, I don't know if Warner Brothers Discovery will shop it around anywhere, or if they're just gonna cut ties completely and just say that's all she wrote and let the fat lady sing, sort of thing.
Really stupid of them to do that, but
or
sell the rights to someone else at least.
Well, I mean, they would still have to produce it, because Warner Brothers owns DC, so it'd have to be produced by them. So it's or at least co-producing and get permission to be produced. So who knows? And they're not the type that would give another studio rights to produce anything, because most of their comic book material has been produced in house since the like 90s. So
I guess the only thing I can hope and pray for is that their network completely crashes and burns after all this. So that's the only thing I guess. I'll be like General Lux from Star Wars. I don't.
Unfortunately, I see both of the things surviving because they're making financial decisions and not creative decisions. And
Sure.
unfortunately, capitalism rules, and it's gonna be what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be successful for a time, but I think hopefully it'll eventually crash and burn. So
I mean, because eventually you're gonna run out of stuff to show. Like, there's only so much. I mean, I guess you could. I mean, if you start producing things like reality shows, you can keep doing that because I mean, we've seen all of these like HGTV and whatnot produce like the same show over and over again. Um, you know, vaguely Christian couple helps fix houses, and
vaguely Christian.
yeah, sometimes you'll throw in like a curveball, and you have a gay couple in Detroit fixing houses, which I like that show.
But that's just it, though. See, they already have a network for that, so
yeah, but they'll put it on regular TV, over air TV, so you don't have to have cable, and people will still probably eat it up, and
okay.
so yeah. I mean, because we had that time where a lot of reality TV like Extreme Makeover Home Edition was like really popular and different things like that, so yeah,
right.
So yeah. And even your like game shows like your Who Wants to Be a Millionaire that were popular and whatnot that were cheaper to make. So yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're gonna want like appointment television, you're gonna have to go to streaming services, and that's gonna be fewer between too, because a lot of that you would have like second aired things, but I don't know. Things are gonna have to consolidate for things to make any sense, like financially. So we'll see what happens. But any other thoughts here before we wrap things up?
No.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the show if you watched it, which I hope you did before you listen to this. Anyways, be sure to, speaking of shows, check out all2real2.com. Check out our TeePublic and our Patreon and all of our, places you can listen to the show. You know what you should do? Instead of just listening to us on one podcast service, listen to us simultaneously on two.
Yeah.
No, that seems weird.
Does it? Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. But and just if you want to, just give us money. That'd be good too.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not desperate. But anyway, so
yeah.
Do I sound desperate? Yeah. But remember, most of all, be good to each other. Remember that I love you, and Sesame loves you.
Yeah. True.
And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.